Have you ever wondered what happens when an unstoppable force meets a seemingly immovable object? Well, in the year 376 CE, the world got a front-row seat to just that. The unstoppable force? A desperate people called the Visigoths. The immovable object? The mighty Roman Empire. This single event would set off a chain reaction, a domino effect that would reshape the map of Europe forever. This is the story of the crossing of the Danube, the spark that ignited the so-called barbarian invasions. So, who were these Visigoths? Picture this. They were a Germanic people living peacefully, for the most part, just north of the Danube River, which served as the Roman Empire's formidable northern border. For generations, they had a complex relationship with Rome, sometimes trading, sometimes raiding, but always with the river between them. But in the late 4th century, a new, terrifying power emerged from the vast eastern steppes, the Huns. Imagine a force of nature, a whirlwind of nomadic warriors on horseback, so fierce that stories of their brutality spread faster than they rode. The Huns crashed into the Gothic lands, shattering their world. Faced with annihilation or subjugation, a large group of Visigoths, led by chieftains like Fritigern, made a desperate choice. They fled south, arriving at the banks of the Danube, the doorstep of the Roman Empire, not as invaders, but as refugees. They weren't looking for a fight. They were looking for a safe haven. They sent envoys to the Roman Emperor Valens, who was based in the east, pleading for permission to cross the river and settle in Roman territory. They offered to serve in the Roman army and live as loyal subjects in exchange for land and protection. From a Roman perspective, this was a tempting offer. The empire constantly needed new recruits for its legions and farmers for its lands. After some deliberation, Emperor Valens agreed. It seemed like a win-win situation. What could possibly go wrong? Well, everything. The problem wasn't the plan, but the execution. The local Roman officials tasked with managing the crossing were corrupt and incompetent. They saw the desperate Goths not as new citizens, but as an opportunity for exploitation. They promised food and supplies that never arrived. They treated the Goths with cruelty and contempt, even taking their children as hostages under the guise of ensuring good behavior. The Goths, who had arrived seeking safety, were now starving, humiliated, and trapped. The breaking point came during a tense feast. The Roman commander, Lupicinus, tried to assassinate the Gothic leaders, including Fritigern. The plot failed, and all hell broke loose. The starving, betrayed Visigoths rose up in a furious rebellion. They were no longer refugees begging for scraps. They were an angry, organized army inside Roman borders. The very people Rome had allowed in to serve as soldiers were now its sworn enemies, rampaging through the wealthy province of Thrace. This wasn't just a minor border skirmish. It was a full-blown crisis. Emperor Valens, realizing the catastrophic mistake he'd made, marched his elite Eastern Field Army to crush the rebellion once and for all. This led to the fateful Battle of Adrianople in 378 CE. The Romans, overconfident and poorly coordinated, suffered one of the most devastating defeats in their entire history. Emperor Valens himself was killed on the battlefield. An emperor had fallen, and an entire Roman army was annihilated by the very people they had led in just 2 years earlier. The Battle of Adrianople was a point of no return. It shattered the myth of Roman invincibility and proved that the barbarians could not only challenge, but decisively defeat the legions. This event emboldened other Germanic tribes to cross the borders, leading to a century of migration, conflict, and ultimately the collapse of the Western Roman Empire. And it all started with that desperate crossing of the Danube in 376 CE, a moment when a refugee crisis, mishandled by greed and arrogance, spiraled into a conflict that would change the course of history. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey back in time. If you found this story as fascinating as I do, please hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into the pivotal moments that shaped our world. Let me know in the comments what other historical events you'd like to explore. Until next time, stay curious.